And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Wednesday, June 20th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain, and many of the stories we read here can also be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com. And here are some of those news stories for the day. Members of the Fond du Lac Ojibwe Band and a large Native population in Duluth, Minnesota and Superior, Wisconsin today are trying to dry out after another storm on June 20th added to storm damage on June 19th. Flooding and damaging roads leading to the mayor to declare, that's Mayor Don Ness of Duluth, declaring a state of emergency and closing many businesses, college campuses, and activity in the Superior, Wisconsin, Duluth, Minnesota region. In addition to numerous washed out roads, flooded basements, Duluth lost many of its zoo animals to drowning overnight, while their polar bear escaped his enclosure, got away, and was later tranquilized by the zoo's vet before being quarantined. One of the zoo's seals was found swimming on Grand Avenue just outside of the zoo. Several major roads into and out of the city and several dozen residents of the historic Fond du Lac Trading Post District south of the city were evacuated because of the rising water levels of the St. Louis River. And last look at Doppler radar says they're going to get some more rain yet before the day's up. The Nez Perce tribe in northern Idaho has approved a commercial fishing season, allowing gillnets on the Clearwater River for spring Chinook. The fishery runs from the river's mouth at Lewiston to the tribe's 1863 boundary near Kuskia. It's unclear if the tribe has issued any gillnet permits to tribal anglers to date. The state and the tribe are each entitled to catch about 5,400 spring Chinook in the Clearwater this year, but the tribe says tribal anglers have so far only caught about 450 Chinook. The tribe is allowing spring Chinook caught in the commercial fishery to be sold, but tribal regulations permit only hatchery Chinook to actually be sold. The vice chairwoman and 5 other members of the Yankton Sioux Tribe's Business and Claims Committee have been suspended without pay for 30 days for alleged misconduct. The committee members are accused of canceling a June 14th meeting of the tribe's general council without authority in an attempt to prevent friends and relatives from being fired from the tribally run Fort Randall Casino near Wagner. Tribal Chairman Thurman Corner told the Daily Republic newspaper about the events. The General Council is made up of all tribal members and oversees the Business and Claims Committee. The General Council on June 15th suspended Committee Vice Chairwoman Ida Ashes and members Jason Cook, Gail Hubbeling, Nick Conoyer, Brenda Zephyr, and Jody Zephyr. Thurman Cornoyer said another General Council meeting will be held in a month to determine their final fate. A Lake Superior tribe and its local community are forming a committee to discuss the possibility of reclaiming reservation land, or at least using it again. The Bad River Band of Lake Superior Chippewa settled on Madeline Island and Lake Superior's Apostle Islands hundreds of years ago with other tribal entities from out the Great Lakes. Tribal Chairman Mike Wiggins says his people consider the island sacred, and members of the La Pointe Band reserved a fishing camp on the northern end of the island in treaties over 150 years ago. However, the island also has a large number of high-priced homes where hundreds of visitors stay in the summer, and some of those homeowners have also leased land from the Bad River Band for decades. But Wiggins says it's possible for the lease for up to a dozen home sites may not be renewed when they're up in 2017. He tells the Wisconsin Public Radio he'd like to see that area opened up to tribal people again. La Pointe Town Chairman Greg Nelson hopes the newly formed Tribal Relations Committee will help both sides keep the lines of communication open. The government entered into settlement talks this week with the director of the Custer-themed Montana Museum, trying to resolve who owns American Indian artifacts seized in raids by federal agents there. The 22 bonnets, medicine bundles, and other items were confiscated in the year 2005 and again in 2008 from the Custer Battlefield Museum in Gary, Owen. The government spent years pursuing artifact fraud charges against museum director Christopher Kortlander, but dropped its investigation 3 years ago. The U.S. Attorney's Office says most of the items have feathers from protected eagles and alleged some were stolen from members of the Crow tribe. Kortlander has not been implicated in the thefts, and officials acknowledge one allegedly stolen war bonnet could have been misidentified. The settlement talks are scheduled before U.S. Magistrate Judge Keith Strong. A woman accused of starting part of one of Arizona's largest wildfires years ago is still facing legal troubles 10 years later. The Arizona Republic reports that the White Mountain Apache tribe is seeking a judgment in a civil lawsuit against Valinda Jo Elliott for her role in igniting the Rodeo Chedesky fire in June of 2002. Authorities say Elliott was driving on June 18, 2002 from Phoenix to the remote community of Young with her boss when their car ran out of gas. They were on the Fort Apache Reservation at the time, passing signs advising that fires were banned and the forested area was closed. After spending 2 nights alone near Chedesky Mountain, Elliott started a fire to catch the attention of a news helicopter. The signal fire merged with one set by Leonard Gregg, a part-time firefighter trying to give himself some work. The resulting eastern Arizona blaze became the Rodeo Chedesky fire, the largest fire in state history at the time. The fire burned 731 square miles and destroyed 481 structures. Apache leaders say the wildfire cost the tribe millions of dollars in timber and firefighting costs. Hopi lawmakers have voted to oppose legislation in Congress to settle the tribe's water claims in the Little Colorado River Basin. Arizona Senator John Kyle introduced the bill earlier this year, but it cannot move forward without the blessing of the Hopi and their Navajo neighbors. Under the settlement, the federal government would pay to pipe groundwater to Hopi communities if the tribe waives further claims to the river system. Hopi lawmakers took the vote June 15th, but it's unclear whether it represents the final stance of the tribe. Supporters of the settlement said that they're reviewing the resolution. Kyle said the settlement addresses water needs on the reservation and provides certainty of water supply for off-reservation communities as well. And that's going to be another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to say miigwech and wawanan to all those joining with us and come back again soon.